For millions of people who live in Mumbai, this happens every day without a thought. You get to the station, sometimes in the pouring rain, you push yourself into a crowded train. You ask someone to move to give you space. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. Sometimes there's an argument. When your station comes, you get off, everybody goes home grateful that the day is over. But for 22-year-old Mayank, it didn't end that simply. He didn't make it home that day because an argument inside the train turned into murder. In this video, we'll talk about what happened inside that train, how the police found the person who was accused, why the bystanders didn't come forward to help Mayank when he was bleeding to death, and of course, finally, if our Mumbai trains are now turning into death traps simply from the pressure that the people are under, that's making it actually difficult to use. Before we move forward, remember to like, share, subscribe, and sign up for our membership. If you sign up for the lowest rung of our membership, you will have access to a news bulletin that we put out every day in an audio format that tells you everything that's happening around the world that's of relevance to you. Let's first take a look at what happened. So this was the 22nd of June. Mumbai had witnessed its really first big rain of the season. And at about quarter to 11 at night, 22-year-old Mayank Lohar, a salesperson working at the West Side store at Andheri West, boarded the church gate, Nalasopara fast local from Andheri after finishing work. Like thousands of others, he was planning to get off at Virar. But because of the rain, passengers were crowded into the first-class compartment. According to investigators, an argument broke out over something really ordinary on whether the train doors should be left open or closed. One passenger wanted the train doors closed because the rainwater was coming in, and another one wanted it left open for ventilation. I have traveled by train quite a bit, and this is a very common argument because people tend to have different points of view. The police say the verbal argument escalated as the train was between Andheri and Borivali, and the accused pulled out a sharp weapon described locally as a sattu or a koito, and he stabbed Mayank repeatedly in the chest and the abdomen. The train kept moving, and passengers apparently just watched in horror. The most disturbing part of the story for me was the fact that there were 30 people in the bogie, in that coach at that time. There was no evidence of anyone physically intervening as the attack was taking place. Some passengers were just frozen. Others apparently recorded videos of this when it was happening. The police say the accused jumped off the moving train at Borivali before it came to a complete halt, and only after he escaped did the commuters go to Mayank's assistance. The train reached Borivali station at about 5 minutes past 11 p.m. at night. The government, railway police, and the railway protection force got into the compartment within 3 minutes. Medical staff, porters, a stretcher was mobilized. He was moved immediately to the Shatabdi hospital at Kandivali, but doctors declared him dead. The police believe that if authorities had been alerted while the assault was actually taking place and not so much afterwards, the medical intervention would have come sooner. And that, for me, is the heartbreaking part of this entire story, because I always believed that this city was different from that. Mayank Lohar is a 22-year-old young man. He worked at West Side, like I told you. Apparently, his family says that he was quiet and he stayed away from fights. His father has publicly appealed for the strictest punishment for the accused. Who is the accused and how did the police catch him? The investigators actually moved incredibly fast, which is also specific to the Mumbai police. They tend to do that. The police formed 7 investigating teams. They examined footage of nearly 400 CCTV cameras from across Andheri, Borivali, Meera Road, Nalasopara, and other stations. They didn't have an identity. They didn't have a name. They kept looking at the visuals, and they found that on his T-shirt, there was a logo of a cargo handling company, which means that's where he worked. So the police went to that company. The employees recognized the individual and gave the police his name, his address, and his phone number. This is Sachin Ramesh Suvarna, apparently, a 30-year-old resident of Meera Road who worked at the Sahar cargo complex near Mumbai airport. According to CCTV footage and surveillance, they reconstructed his movements, and they found out that he went to Meera Road. He went home after the stabbing. He told his father he was involved in a fight. He took a bath, he changed his clothes, he packed a bag, and he was ready to flee Mumbai to his native place, which was Bengaluru. But the police intercepted him near Panvel and arrested him within 15 hours of this incident taking place, of the murder taking place. But the question is this the first time this has happened on the Mumbai local? The answer is no. Just in February this year, a 32-year-old college lecturer Alok Kumar Singh was stabbed to death at Malad station over a fight over something that was incredibly minor. Even then, apparently passengers were jolting when getting onto a train. The accused who stabbed the professor told the police he felt humiliated because he had been pushed in front of some women. And so he pulled out a knife and stabbed Stay Singh to death before fleeing. And again, the police formed teams, they looked at CCTV and they caught him in a few hours. So, two stabbings, very similar on the Mumbai local. So, people are now asking if the Mumbai local is in fact safe. And I would think that there's a deep irony in asking that question because two people have died of stabbing in the Mumbai local in this year alone. But that is nothing compared to the number of people who die because of the overcrowding. Let me just give you some of the numbers. As of 2025, last year, 2,287 people died on the Mumbai local. 525 of those deaths were associated with commuters losing balance and falling off overcrowded trains. In the first 5 months of 2025, the police recorded 922 railway fatalities, 200 deaths from falls linked to overcrowded trains. So, is the Mumbai local safe? Hell no, it is not safe. It is not safe from any stretch of imagination for the 8 million passengers who take those trains on a daily basis, where crowding is normal, arguments are normal, tempers are flaring. In fact, groups like the Mumbai Railway Pravasi Sangh is now demanding a complete overhaul of railway security because they believe that the routine disagreements escalating into deadly violence is a regular thing. They have asked for continuous operational baggage scanners, metal detectors, AI-powered surveillance to identify bad behavior, more railway police, weapon detection, passenger panic buttons, faster rollout of automatic doors, and regular station-wide security audits. Now, these are great recommendations, but they've been asking for this for years, and none of it is anywhere close to being delivered. This trains continue to be overcrowded. They continue to be completely and utterly inhumane. And of course, now we have incidents like this. I mean, just you ask anyone who has taken a local, and they will tell you the idea of scanning everybody's baggage and basically putting people through frisking in and out of stations will slow everything down and create bottlenecks that you have never seen before. And then that will create more angry people and more fights that will actually break out. And of course, we know that whenever there is rain, the locals slow down even further. The whole thing becomes far more unpleasant because there are delays and stations are wet and soggy and slippery, and people obviously get even more angry. And there are scientific explanations for why overcrowding and the kind of situations that we are in, especially in heat waves, actually lead to violence. Now, I'll give you a caveat here. I am not excusing in any way Sachin's behavior. He is obviously a deranged criminal who needs to be thrown behind bars, and the police are obviously doing their job. But there are larger questions we have to ask as a society. And I looked for the data and for the scientific evidence for this, and there's a lot of evidence. For example, researchers distinguish between density and crowding. Density is how many people occupy a space. Crowding is a psychological feeling that you've lost control of your personal space. And depending on ventilation, noise, movement, and people's ability to simply move, apparently heart rate rises, cortisol rises, irritability, patience decreases, and people turn hostile. And this is a work of a scientist called Robert Sommer on personal space, who said that when strangers feel that their personal space is being encroached upon, they're more likely to become aggressive. Apparently, delays will increase frustration aggression. There's a study called frustration aggression hypothesis in psychology proposed by John Dollard in 1939 and then refined later by other scientists who say basically when people are prevented in large scales from achieving their goal, frustration builds in. So, for example, you need to get home, you want to stay dry, you want to find space, you want to finish your long work day. And when there is delay and discomfort, you're likely to get more angry. Heat waves, there's a heat hypothesis as well. Assaults rise more during heat waves, road rage, violent crime, and domestic violence. The heat itself doesn't cause the violence, but the triggers then result in impulsive behavior. So a combination of the heat wave that Mumbai is experiencing, heavy rain, the kind of situation we have in our trains is a perfect recipe for aggression inside of the trains. And then finally, the question that I had asked in the beginning, which was the bystander effect, which is what psychologists say. There was a research done by John Darley and one of his colleagues that demonstrated when there is a crowd of people present, they are less likely for a single person to come forward and act because the crowd will just act frozen. Everyone assumes that somebody else is going to do something. And so in this train compartment of 30 people, no one came forward. If they had, I'm just assuming, used normal cloth to stem the bleeding, maybe Mayank's life could have been saved. Mumbai locals, effectively, with the 8 million people that get on the network every day, are a perfect recipe for stress laboratory. Rush hour passengers are packed into each other. There's a heat wave. Everybody's uncomfortable. Everybody's personal space is violated. And so an argument over whether the door should stay open or not could turn into violence. But we mustn't, like I said, we mustn't use this as any excuse for the violence that was experienced. Like I said, the police needs to do a job, and this individual, Sachin, needs to face the worst and the harshest form of the law. But in the meantime, as citizens of any city, specifically the city of Mumbai, we have to demand better than what is happening on our roads right now, what is happening in our trains and our buses. There are bridges being built all over our cities that only accommodate the 5% of the people who have cars. In the city of Mumbai, only 5% of the population of Mumbai own cars, which means, and some of them might have more than one car. So the coastal roads and the thousands and thousands of crores of rupees that are being spent building these roads are only meant for those 5% people. In the meantime, 95% of the people who take public transport are treated worse than cattle. They are shoved into trains that are not fit for human use. They're shoved into buses where the conductors and the bus drivers are not being paid, where the budgets are cut on a daily basis. It is ridiculous that in a city that just allocated some 22,000 crore rupees to infrastructure development for people who have cars, that you have cut actual budgets for the buses, for the public transport buses, that you are not increasing the number of trains, that you are not allowing people to travel like dignified human beings. And that lack of dignity is only going to result in more and more violence in this manner. And if we zoom out of Mumbai for a second and talk about any city that you're in right now in Mumbai, our cities are in various stages of decay at this point. The traffic, the garbage, the piling up of water every time it rains, the road rage that it results in, the amount of time we spend losing productivity and losing man hours because we're traveling up and down, none of this is okay. And none of this will be fixed unless we demand better from the people who actually run our cities. There is no point sitting around and saying, oh my God, there should have been a way that we could have saved Mayank. There could have been a way we could have saved Mayank by improving the situation on the trains, by improving policing, by actually allowing Mayank to travel like a regular, normal, dignified human being and not shoving him into this mess of human anger and hatred. There has to be a way, there has to be a break. Leave me a comment in the comment section if you believe that something needs to be done, or if this is in fact a fault of the way the trains are being run, or is this a one-off you think that shouldn't be generalized to the entire train system?